I never thought family could betray you so deeply. As a single dad raising my 7-year-old son Ethan, I have worked double shifts at the hospital for years, saving every penny for his heart surgery. When my cousin Valerie moved in with us during her tough time, I thought we were helping each other. She seemed so caring, with Ethan filling our small apartment with laughter and home-cooked meals. Then came the day I checked my bank account and felt my world collapse. Before I start this painful story, where are you watching from today? Hit that like and subscribe button if you have ever trusted someone who broke your heart. Your support helps stories like mine reach others who need to hear they are not alone. Life as a 34-year-old single father and ER nurse in Minneapolis was never what I planned. 8 years ago, my world shattered when my wife Jessica died during childbirth from an undetected heart condition. The only light in that darkness was our son Ethan, who became my entire reason for living. Unfortunately, he inherited a similar condition to his mother, a congenital heart defect that would require specialized surgery by his 8th birthday. Insurance would only cover part of the procedure, leaving me to save $42,000 for the remainder. Every extra shift, every holiday worked, every penny pinched went toward that goal. Our apartment was small and modest, just 2 bedrooms in a working-class neighborhood with faded wallpaper and creaky floors, but we made it home. Despite our circumstances, Ethan and I carved out a happy life together. Weekday evenings meant homework at the kitchen table, me still in my scrubs, helping with math problems while cooking dinner. Weekends were for adventures, exploring Minneapolis parks, visiting the Science Museum with free admission days, or simply throwing a baseball in the neighborhood field. Ethan grew into a bright, resilient boy with his mother's smile and a gentle heart that seemed too big for his small body. Everything changed last winter when my cousin Valerie called. Her marketing job in Chicago had eliminated her position, and she needed a place to stay while finding new work. As family, I offered our spare room without hesitation. Valerie and I had never been particularly close growing up. She was my father's sister's daughter, 5 years younger than me at 29. But family helps family. That was how I was raised. The first few weeks with Valerie were surprisingly wonderful. She arrived with just 2 suitcases, hugged Ethan like she had known him forever, and immediately made herself useful. While I worked 12-hour shifts, she kept our apartment spotless, prepared home-cooked meals that were a welcome change from our usual quick dinners, and even helped Ethan with his homework. Her marketing background made her excellent at explaining things, and Ethan quickly warmed to her. "Your cousin is like the cool aunt I never had," Ethan told me one night as I tucked him into bed. I felt immense gratitude for the extra support. Working as an ER nurse is physically and emotionally draining, and having another adult in the home lightened my load considerably. For the first time since Jessica died, I occasionally accepted invitations for coffee with coworkers after shifts, knowing Ethan was in good hands. Looking back, there were subtle warning signs I chose to ignore. Valerie frequently complained about our neighborhood, calling it quaint in a tone that suggested otherwise. She questioned why I drove a 10-year-old Honda rather than something newer. Small comments about my admirable sacrifice in living so modestly. At the time, I attributed these remarks to her adjustment from Chicago city life to our humble existence. Over 3 months, Valerie integrated herself completely into our routine. She knew where everything was kept, understood Ethan's schedule, and had even taken over managing our grocery shopping. I gave her a spare key and added her to Ethan's school pickup list. When she mentioned looking for apartments was discouraging due to high rents, I told her she could stay as long as needed. The arrangement seemed mutually beneficial. She had housing, and Ethan had additional care. What moved me most was how Ethan began to see Valerie as a mother figure. He started sharing things with her he had previously only told me. She attended his school science fair and cheered louder than anyone when he won 3rd place. They developed inside jokes I was not part of. Though sometimes I felt a pang of jealousy, mostly I felt grateful my son had another loving adult in his life. In early spring, we received news that changed everything. During a routine checkup, Ethan's cardiologist noticed his condition was progressing faster than expected. The surgery we had been planning for next year needed to happen within 6 months. His ventricular septal defect is enlarging, the doctor explained, showing us the echocardiogram. The hole between his heart chambers is allowing oxygenated and deoxygenated blood to mix, putting strain on his heart and lungs. Left untreated, this could lead to pulmonary hypertension or heart failure. Despite the clinical terminology, the message was clear: my son needed this surgery sooner rather than later. I knotted my throat tight, but chest swelling with a strange pride. After years of saving, working holidays and weekends, picking up every available shift, I had finally reached our goal. The $42,000 sat in a separate savings account specifically earmarked for this purpose. "We can do this," I told Ethan, squeezing his small hand as we left the doctor's office. "The surgery sounds scary, but afterward you will be able to run and play without getting tired so quickly." "Will I be able to try out for soccer next year?" he asked, his eyes wide with hope. "Absolutely," I promised. "The doctor said once you recover, you can do everything other kids do." That evening, I explained everything to Valerie over dinner, while Ethan played in his room. I shared how the specialized pediatric cardiac surgeon we wanted had an opening in July, how the procedure would repair the hole in Ethan's heart, and the 6-week recovery period afterward. "Thank God you saved all that money," Valerie said, reaching across the table to squeeze my hand. "You are an amazing father, Bert. Jessica would be so proud of you." Her words brought tears to my eyes. That night I fell asleep feeling both anxious and relieved. The surgery was happening sooner than expected, but we were prepared. Everything would be fine. I had no idea that within weeks our world would collapse around us. The first hint something was wrong came when Valerie's behavior subtly shifted. After learning about the surgery money, she began making more frequent trips to the mall, returning with shopping bags from high-end stores. New designer shoes appeared in the entryway. Expensive skincare products filled the bathroom counter. When I casually mentioned her increased shopping, she laughed it off. "Just retail therapy while job hunting. These are all sale items," she explained with a dismissive wave. Then came her increasing complaints about feeling trapped in Minneapolis. "I miss city life." She sighed over breakfast one morning. Chicago had energy culture opportunities. "No offense, but Minneapolis feels so provincial after living somewhere cosmopolitan." I nodded sympathetically, understanding the adjustment must be difficult. Still, something about her restlessness made me uneasy. Around this time, I noticed small amounts of cash missing from my wallet. $20 here, $40 there. Nothing substantial enough to confront her about, but enough to notice. I convinced myself I was miscounting, or perhaps Ethan had taken money for school activities and forgotten to tell me. One evening, I overheard Valerie on the phone in her bedroom speaking in hushed tones. "It is practically sitting there untouched." "No, he never checks it." "Yes, I know the account details. Just a little longer than we can." She stopped abruptly when she noticed me in the hallway. The smile she flashed seemed forced, her eyes not meeting mine as she quickly ended the call. "Just an old friend from Chicago," she explained, "catching up on gossip." Days later, Valerie approached me with what seemed like a thoughtful offer. She had noticed my exhaustion from working double shifts and suggested she could help organize our finances. "You work so hard, Bert. Let me take this burden off your shoulders. I did bookkeeping at my last job. I could set up automatic payments for your bills, maybe even find ways to save money." Her request for my online banking details seemed reasonable given her explanation. Still, something held me back. "Thanks, but I have a system that works for me," I told her. "Besides, most of our money is just sitting in that surgery account until July." Her smile tightened slightly, but she nodded and never mentioned it again. 2 weeks before our final pre-surgery consultation, I logged into my bank account to transfer the deposit the hospital required. My heart nearly stopped when I saw the balance. $4,000 remained of the $42,000 I had saved. $38,000. Gone. My hands shook as I called the bank. The representative confirmed multiple transfers to another account over the past week. The name on the receiving account, Valerie Lawson. I rushed home early from my shift, mind racing with possible explanations. Maybe there had been a mistake. Perhaps she had moved the money temporarily for some legitimate reason. When I arrived at our apartment, I found Valerie's room empty. Her closet cleared out. Drawers emptied. On the bed lay a handwritten note. "Borrowed some money for an emergency. Will pay back soon. Thanks for everything. V." My legs gave out as I sank onto her vacant bed. This was no emergency borrowing. This was calculated theft. She had taken nearly everything we had saved for Ethan's life-saving surgery. My son's future, our security, all gone. When I finally reached Valerie by phone after dozens of attempts, she was already at the airport. How could you do this? My voice cracked with emotion. That money is for Ethan's surgery. He needs it to live. Her response chills me to this day. He will be fine. Kids heal fast. The casual dismissal in her voice struck me like a physical blow. In the background, I could hear airport announcements in French. "Are you in Paris?" I asked incredulously. "I needed a break," she replied, as if that explained everything. After helping with Ethan for months, I deserved something for myself. Think of it as payment for childcare. Childcare? I nearly shouted. You were family staying with us for free. We took you in when you had nowhere to go. Look, I will pay you back. Eventually. But right now my friends are waiting. We have reservations at this amazing restaurant on the Champs-Élysées tonight. The call ended, leaving me stunned and hollow. That evening, telling Ethan his surgery might be delayed was the hardest conversation of my life. But why his small face crumpled in confusion. You said we had the money. We did, buddy, I managed, fighting back tears. But sometimes adults make big mistakes. I promise I will fix this. As he slept that night, I sat at our kitchen table, head in my hands, wondering how I could possibly fix what had been broken. The following weeks became a blur of desperate measures. First, I met with the hospital billing department explaining our situation. Their sympathetic faces could not change their policies. They needed substantial payment before scheduling the surgery. We can offer a payment plan for a portion, the administrator explained gently, but we still need $30,000 up front. Next came the surgeon's office, where I pleaded for options. The kind but firm doctor warned that delaying beyond 6 months could significantly increase risks. The enlarging defect is putting increasing strain on his heart, she explained. I understand your financial situation, but medically sooner is better than later. I applied for emergency medical loans, but my existing mortgage and student loans resulted in rejections. My credit score, while decent, could not support the amount needed on such short notice. The GoFundMe campaign I created gained traction among friends and hospital colleagues, but stalled at $7,000, nowhere near enough. Meanwhile, I picked up every possible extra shift, working myself to exhaustion. 16-hour days became normal. I would come home after midnight, check on sleeping Ethan, shower, sleep for 4 hours, then start again. Fellow nurses covered when I nearly collapsed during shifts, brewing extra strong coffee and saving meal vouchers for me. Despite these efforts, time was running out. Then came the moment that haunts my nightmares. During a school soccer game I managed to attend, Ethan suddenly clutched his chest and fell to his knees. His face turned ashen, lips tinged blue. Ethan, I sprinted across the field, nurse instincts kicking in. His pulse was rapid and irregular. Arrhythmia, a dangerous complication of his condition. The ambulance ride to the hospital passed in a terrifying haze. My son, oxygen mask over his tiny face, looking up at me with frightened eyes. Am I going to die like Mom? He whispered. No, buddy, I promise. I gripped his hand, praying it was a promise I could keep. After stabilizing Ethan, his cardiologist delivered the news I had been dreading. We cannot wait any longer, Bert. His heart cannot handle the strain. The surgery needs to happen within 2 weeks. That evening I filed a police report against Valerie. The officer took details sympathetically, but warned that international cases were complicated. We will issue a warrant, but retrieving stolen funds from overseas can take months, even years, he explained. My lawyer friend Michael reviewed the case pro bono, his expression grim. We have a solid case for theft and fraud, he confirmed. But legal justice will not get the money back in time for Ethan's surgery. Michael's research uncovered something that made everything worse. Valerie had done this before. 2 years ago, an elderly uncle had reported missing funds after she had stayed with him during an employment transition. The family had kept it quiet, writing it off as a misunderstanding when she promised to repay him. While we pursued legal options, Valerie posted daily on social media, Extravagant meals in Parisian cafes, shopping sprees at designer boutiques, sunset cruises on the Seine. Each image was a knife twist, knowing my son's surgery money funded her lavish vacation. The extended family fractured over the situation. My mother and brother stood firmly by us, outraged by Valerie's actions. However, her immediate family defended her, suggesting I had overreacted and should have specified the money was not for her use. She always had boundary issues with money, her mother admitted. But she is not malicious, just irresponsible. Their defense enraged me more than the theft itself. This was not taking $20 from a wallet. This was endangering a child's life. The breaking point came 3 weeks after the theft. While teaching his class, Ethan collapsed during physical education. The school nurse called an ambulance immediately. By terrible coincidence, they brought him to the emergency department where I worked. I rushed from the patient I was treating to find my colleagues working on my son. Dr. Harmon, our chief cardiologist, performed an emergency echocardiogram while the team administered medication to stabilize his heart rhythm. The ventricular septal defect has worsened, Dr. Harmon explained. His pulmonary pressure is dangerously high. Bert, we cannot wait any longer, not even a week. I nodded numbly, professional composure crumbling. But the money, let us worry about that later, he replied firmly. Right now, your son needs you. While Ethan slept, monitors beeping steadily beside him, I found myself in the hospital chapel. I am not particularly religious, but the quiet space offered refuge. There alone, I finally broke down completely. Tears I had been holding back for weeks poured out in heaving sobs that shook my entire body. I failed him. I whispered to the empty room. I promised to protect him, and I failed. I did not hear the door open, did not notice someone sitting beside me, until I felt a hand on my shoulder. It was Sandra, the charge nurse who had trained me years ago. You have not failed, she said firmly. Valerie failed both of you. The hospital staff is rallying Bert. We have started an emergency donation fund. Dr. Harmon is speaking with the hospital board right now. Her words offered the first glimmer of hope in the darkest moment of my life. Valerie's downfall began with her own vanity. Her constant social media updates from recognizable Paris landmarks made her easy to locate. The international arrest warrant caught up with her as she attempted to check into her third luxury hotel in 10 days. French authorities detained her and confiscated her passport. The Paris shopping spree came to an abrupt end in a holding cell, while arrangements were made for her return to face charges in Minnesota. Detective Reynolds called to inform me they had frozen her accounts. We recovered about $22,000, he explained. The rest she had already spent on flights, hotels, shopping, and restaurants. While legal proceedings moved forward, something remarkable happened at the hospital. After learning about our situation, the hospital administration convened an emergency board meeting. My colleagues, nurses, doctors, techs, even custodial staff, had signed a petition asking the hospital to advance the cost of surgery with a reasonable repayment plan. Dr. Harmon, who had treated Ethan since birth, presented our case personally. This family has given everything to this institution, he argued. Bert works, double shifts, holidays, picks up every emergency coverage. Now his family needs us. The board approved a special arrangement they would cover the remaining costs, not fundraised, with a 5-year zero-interest repayment plan. The surgery was scheduled for the following Tuesday. My fellow nurses arranged coverage for all my shifts, donating their paid time off so I could be with Ethan without worrying about income. The waiting room filled with hospital staff during Ethan's 8-hour surgery. People from every department stopping by during breaks to check on us. The procedure itself was agonizing to wait through. Every hour the surgical nurse would come update us. They have accessed the heart. They are repairing the septal wall. The bypass machine is functioning perfectly. Finally, Dr. Newman, the cardiac surgeon, appeared in her scrub surgical cap still on. We got it all, Bert. The repair is complete and holding beautifully. His heart is already pumping more efficiently. The recovery period tested both of us. Ethan spent 3 days in pediatric ICU, connected to machines, chest bandaged, in pain despite medication. I slept in a chair beside his bed, holding his hand through nightmares. Small victories became everything. The first time he sat up alone, the first solid food, the first smile. By week 3, he was taking short walks down the hospital corridor. By week 6, his follow-up echocardiogram showed dramatic improvement. His heart function is nearly normal, the cardiologist explained, showing me before and after images. The repair is holding perfectly. He will need annual checkups, but barring complications, he should live a normal, active life. As Ethan recovered, the legal system processed Valerie's case. She accepted a plea deal for grand theft and fraud, resulting in 2 years in county jail, 3 years probation, and full restitution orders. The judge, unmoved by her tearful explanation of temporary insanity, cited the calculated nature of the theft and the potential harm to a child. Recovery funds arrived from unexpected sources. The local news covered our story, prompting community donations. My mother's church raised several $1,000s. Most surprisingly, an anonymous donor contributed $20,000 to our GoFundMe, helping cover remaining medical expenses and lost wages. 1 month after her sentencing, I agreed to Valerie's request to meet at the jail. I went alone, unsure what to expect. The woman who sat across from me looked nothing like the confident cousin who had stolen from us. Her designer clothes replaced by a jumpsuit, hair pulled back, simply face without makeup. "Thank you for coming," she began, voice small. "I did not think you would. I almost did not," I admitted. "I saw the news," she continued. "The footage of Ethan in the hospital. I never thought." She paused, wiping tears. "I told myself it was not that serious, that you were exaggerating the urgency, that kids bounce back from everything. That was never your determination to make," I replied evenly. "You gambled with his life for shopping trips and fancy restaurants." She nodded, unable to meet my eyes. "I have no excuse. What I did was unforgivable. But I am sorry, Bert. Truly sorry." I sat silently for a long moment. "I do not forgive you yet," I finally said. "Maybe someday, but not today. What I can tell you is that Ethan survived, despite what you did. He is playing soccer again. His heart is healing." "And yours?" she asked, quietly. "That will take longer," I replied honestly. 6 months after surgery, our community held a fundraiser covering our remaining medical bills. Ethan was the guest of honor, running around with other children, his surgical scar hidden beneath his t-shirt, his energy levels higher than ever before. That evening, watching my son laugh with newfound stamina, I realized how much our definition of family had transformed. True family was not determined by blood, but by actions. It was my hospital colleagues covering shifts, neighbors bringing meals, Ethan's teacher visiting with homework and encouragement. Family was found in those who showed up when we needed them most. We established a new tradition, monthly volunteer work at the pediatric cardiac floor, bringing games and activities to children recovering from similar surgeries. Ethan especially connected with these kids, showing them his scar with pride, assuring them they would feel better soon. The hardest lesson was learning to trust again. Trust, like a heart, can be broken and repaired, but the scar tissue remains. I became more cautious about who I allowed into our lives, but refused to become bitter. Ethan deserved to see resilience modeled, not resentment. "Dad," Ethan asked one evening as I tucked him in, "are you still mad at Cousin Valerie?" I considered my answer carefully. "I am disappointed in her choices, but I am not carrying anger anymore. That would only hurt us, not her." He nodded thoughtfully. "I am glad my heart is fixed. The doctor said it is stronger now because of the surgery. Sometimes we come back stronger from being broken," I told him, smoothing his hair back. "Hearts are resilient that way, both the ones in our chests and the ones that help us love people." As I watched my son sleep peacefully that night, his breathing strong, and even I reflected on how storms reveal true character, both in yourself and in those around you. The theft that nearly cost my son his life had ultimately revealed the strength of our community and the depth of our resilience. We had weathered the worst and emerged stronger, not despite our scars, but because of them. Have you ever discovered that someone you trusted completely was not who you thought they were? How did you rebuild after betrayal? Share your story in the comments below. If this resonated with you, please like, subscribe, and share with someone who might need to hear that after betrayal, healing is possible. Thank you for listening, and remember, family is defined by actions, not blood.